who arranges the speaker series, pointed out to me that the Harrowsmith Almanac said today is National Gardening Day.
Oh.
So, bonus.
Bonus.
As well. Also, the museum has set up a couple of artifacts here, and I brought in some books. So at the break, when we're at the end of the evening, when you're welcome to help yourself to sandwiches and goodies in the kitchen, feel free to leaf through the books and that kind of thing too. I have quite a collection at home. Every once in a while, Richard gets some at his meetings in Ingersoll, so. Anyway, Richard, he's a gentleman of many talents. Diverse background, communication in many areas. Richard was a teacher principal for 34 years, a gardener for 60 years, you're counting, a lay preacher for 45 years. Okay, adds up to 139 years. So Richard, that's a little old, but I'm sure some of these times overlap, right?
Yeah, they did.
Closer to home, he's been a member and many times president of the Ingersoll Horticultural Society. And I know from my many years of going to the Horticultural Society and so on, that Richard and his wife grow in their basement starting in March, tomato plants. And he will have over 100 tomato plants. And he grows other things as well. And this is his contribution to the Horticultural Society, so that when we have our plant sale in May at the CSW Hall in Ingersoll, that these tomato plants, and I mean, my neighbors have quit saying to me, Janice, don't bring me any more tomatoes, because Richard's tomatoes are phenomenal, whether they're the cherry tomatoes or whatever. But each year they grow over 100 plants as a fundraiser. Tonight, he's brought a talk. He has many talks, but this is about versatile annuals. So we're going to let Richard take over.
Thank you, Janice. Well, the topic is amazing, versatile annuals and such. And I'll explain the and such as I go. Now, if this looks like a big bed of zinnias to you, you'd be absolutely right. 2 summers ago, we discovered that apparently people in Saskatoon love to go to a farm just outside of the city to wander through an extensive field of annuals to search out their own delightful bouquets, as this young man is doing. I guess I could raise that up a little bit, right?
Perfect.
Is that okay? In this bouquet, I see zinnias, coneflower, love in the mist or nigella, some type of daisies, and some amaranth in the back. Amaranth is a relative of pigweed. Our granddaughter, and we too, were quite enchanted by the huge selection of sunflowers available for cutting. This cut-your-own operation was a new venture for the owners. We have not heard whether it was a financial success or not, but the whole novel idea of pick-your-own bouquets of annuals is definitely a success in our imagination, contributing to the validity of our topic for tonight, amazing, versatile annuals. The town of Ingersoll's Parks Department made good use of annuals in their plantings last summer and the summer before, and probably again this summer. The large planters placed about town are filled with amazing annuals that look good all summer long. You can see dark-leafed cannas as the upright focal point. Now usually, We think of annuals as plants grown from seed and lasting one growing season. So, strictly speaking, plants grown from tubers, corms, and bulbs are not annuals. But unless the tubers, corms, and bulbs are dug up and stored over the winter, they do last just one growing season. That's why I've labeled this presentation Amazing, Versatile Annuals and Such. A fascinating example of and such are bulbous annuals called voodoo lilies. We find the bulbs sending up a flower stalk in late winter or early spring, even when stored in dry peat moss. The flower catches one's attention by its shape and color, and especially by its putrid odor, which is designed to attract pollinating insects such as carrion flies. After a week or two of this unusual flower, it dies back, and one would think that the plant is finished. But after a month or two, lovely leaves appear and are decorative on the patio all summer long. But no more of those stinky flowers. Now, this is another variety of voodoo lily, which, with an even more unusual flower, because that's the flower that you see there stretching up, and a nastier odor if that's possible, but just as interesting. And it has the same growth habits. Speaking of the versatility of annuals, you can plant them in almost anything and almost anywhere to make a statement. Some folks, a few blocks over from where we live, had geraniums stepping up to fill some old work boots. They look pretty smart along the sidewalk. We find morning glories make a drab old fence between us and our neighbor become a source of delight to the eye. The stone fence, which opens up to our backyard, has served as a planter for many different annuals over the years, because these blocks are open at the top, and so we can plant a row of different annuals along there. The city of Fort McMurray welcomes visitors to its sports complex with canoes full of annuals. A is for asters, a colorful annual for borders and beds, and they make good cut flowers too. Amaranthus, as I said, related to the nasty red-rooted pigweed, makes a grand display in a flower bed, and that has earned it the common name of Love Lies Bleeding. I guess that's blood streaming down, right? Ageratum is quite commonly seen as a low-growing front of the border plant along with white alyssum, as seen in this picture. But ageratum also comes as a 2-foot tall variety, shown here, which makes a nice mid-height blue in a bed or border and is an excellent cut flower. Begonias come in many varieties that work well in planters or hanging baskets. Begonias do well in shade and semi-shade. Celosias come in various heights, short ones, which are suitable for the front of a bed, while taller ones serve well in the middle or back. They prefer full sun and can tolerate a lot of drought. They are good as fresh cut flowers and are also suitable for dried arrangements during the fall and the winter. Coxcomb celosias are impressive in the flower bed or in a fresh cut arrangement. Calendulas are easy to grow from seed outdoors and as such are great for kids' gardens. Their colors range from a cheery orange to yellow with even some brown highlights. Bachelor's buttons are in the Centaurea family, which includes some neat perennials like Centaurea macrocephala, which has big yellow heads like some kind of king's scepter. The easily grown annual bachelor's buttons shown here are nice for a month or so if deadheaded regularly, but I would not recommend them for a tidy all summer show. Convolvulus is a morning glory like annual, which we do not like to be without because we just love its dependable show of abundant navy blue flowers with the contrasting white and yellow centers. Since it's not a tall climber, it is best grown in pots with some support since its scraggly growth habit makes tidiness a challenge. Nevertheless, since it keeps blooming all summer and fall, it's worth the effort. Cleome, also known as spider plant, that white one there, is known by that common name because its seed pods stick out from the stem, as you can see, like a spider's legs. Cleomes come in white and pastel, purple, or pink. They are best used in the middle or back of a bed because they get to be 3 to 4 feet tall, unless you can find the more recent half-sized version. They also bloom 2 or 3 months, but are not suitable as a cut flower. They are also devilishly tricky to germinate indoors. Cosmos are also good for children's gardens because their seed is quite large and germinates easily outdoors. Their most common colors are red, pink, and white, especially for the standard old open pollinated variety, which can get to be 3 to 4 feet tall. Some newer hybrids can be a lot shorter. We're still talking about cosmos here. And they have interesting variations in color, but are never as robust as the originals. Here we are on coleus. Coleus are easy to germinate indoors. They are grown for their remarkable leaf colors. They do well in containers and come in various heights, so choose your container accordingly. Semi-shade is their preference. This is Kaffia, a favorite of ours. It's also known as cigar plant. I guess you can tell why. The black and white tip on the tubular flowers look like the burning ash on the end of a cigar. We have found Kaffia to be a reliable bloomer from spring to fall, attracting various pollinators, even hummingbirds, if they're placed in a hanging container. William Dam Seeds, and I have a few catalogs here. I have a few catalogs here from William Dam Seeds. If anybody is interested in those, they can take them and keep them. Also have some catalogs from Richter's Herbs in Goodwood, which is north of Toronto, and you're free to help yourself to those too. Back to Kaffia. William Dam Seeds introduced a type of blue keffiyeh 2 years ago. We grew it 2 years before that, obtaining the seeds from Stokes Seeds. It did well in a large pot in semi-shade, but they did not carry the seed last year. Unfortunately, after the demise of Thompson and Morgan Seeds, we have found no Canadian company that carries seed for the red cigar plant. Therefore, several years ago, we imported some seed from a Dutch company at an exorbitantly shipping price. So now, we always collect our own seed from these in late summer or fall. And that's really not too hard to do. And so we start our own. We've got some started again already this spring. Just another snapshot of it. Interesting plant. Some of them open up this way to sort of expose their ovaries to pollinating insects. Or maybe once they've been pollinated, then these ovaries swell up and they open up and these little seeds turn brown, and that's what we collect in the fall. Going on from there, some small border dahlias are grown from seed, but most are grown from tubers, which are best stored in dry peat moss at cool temperatures over the winter. In spring, the clumps of tubers can be divided and planted up in pots to be planted out when frost danger has abated. Dahlias come in a wide range of colors and flower forms, from ball-shaped to spiky. That's what we mean by spiky. Those kind of flowers with spiky petals are called cactus-shaped flowers. The height of dahlias varies from 1 to 5 feet. Needless to say, the taller varieties usually require staking or their own large wire cages, much like tomato cages. Dahlias are worth the effort because of their beautiful colors and shapes, and also because they make good cut flowers. There's one called Mr. Optimist. And there's just a white one. Now, does anybody recognize these? They're called 4 o'clocks. 4 o'clocks have that name because they don't open up until the afternoon. They are bushy plants about 2 feet high, come in colors from white, yellow, pink, and red, but never are they purple or blue. They germinate easily right in the garden and are quite untroubled by disease or insects. That makes them good for children's planting. Unfortunately, they're not suitable for bouquets since they don't open till 4 o'clock, which is often something that kids like to do with the flowers that they grow. So that's a drawback for the kids. Geraniums, as we mentioned earlier, work nicely in pots and in borders or in big old shoes. And they can be started from seed early in January if you wish to have them bloom by the May 2-4 weekend. The good thing about this is that if you want to start your geraniums in January, it gives you a long growing season to enjoy. But you've got to do it inside and under lights. If you're not set up for that, you can often pick up small, nicely started geraniums for just a few bucks at places like Walmart in early spring and bring them to full size on a windowsill without paying the big prices charged by nurseries and box stores later on in May when the planting season is in full swing, because then geraniums don't come cheap. Impatiens also must be started early in February because they too are slow growing from seed. Impatiens do well in shade all summer long, so they can be used in pots that sit in a shady spot on a patio or in a bed that has some degree of shade. Only the New Guinea varieties do well in full sunshine. Marigolds come in various colors, from white to yellow to orange to rusty red, and many combinations thereof. With some deadheading, they are great for pots and borders all summer long. One weakness is that the short African varieties of marigold seem to be a great delicacy enjoyed by slugs and snails, which means you have to pay attention to applying slug bait rather frequently during rainy periods, or the small little marigolds will be eaten up totally. Therefore, maybe it's best just to use the small marigolds in planters that the slugs don't seem to want to crawl up too quickly. The taller, more robust varieties of marigolds don't seem to be bothered by these critters. But these are the small French type of marigolds. Morning glories can be spectacular when growing up an old fence, as I showed you earlier, up a trellis or a stump. The blooms last only one day, and only in the morning at that. But they do open early in the morning, so us early risers get to enjoy their fresh newness every morning again all summer long. They come in a wide range of colors, such as this double called Sunrise Serenade, or a sky blue one called Blue Bagua. And of course, there are also pink ones, and red ones, and white varieties, and even bicolors such as this one. The various colors can be truly fascinating. Of course, one needs to place them in a location that enables you to see well their southward turned faces. Morning glories are quite easy to grow in almost any garden soil. Their main problems can be chewing insects such as grasshoppers and Japanese beetles, of all things. Nasturtiums are colorful and useful in pots and flower beds. Since the bright flowers are edible, they are sometimes used to decorate salads. Nasturtiums have seeds that look a lot like little pea seeds and are easily planted outdoors where they are to bloom. If used in large containers, they make a good spiller hanging over the edge. They seem to be quite disease-free and insect-resistant. Again, great for intriguing kids with plants and gardening. I think way back when I was a kid, about 6 years old, one of the first flowers that my mother had me grow was a nasturtium. Pansies and violets and violas have been reliable in containers and borders since their frost-free tolerance means that they can be planted in early spring to provide some color while we wait to dare to plant less hardy things. Their cherry faces display many neat combinations of color to delight the eye and the heart. Their main drawback is that they tend to fade away in summer's heat. Now, phlox are usually thought of as the tall perennials that bring big clumps of color and much fragrance to the summer garden for weeks on end. However, there are also shorter annual varieties that can put forth an even longer lasting display. But being rather weak-stemmed, they work best as a trailing plant in border edges or containers. I'm going to skip that one. There we go. Petunias have been the old standby for beds, borders, and containers for many decades. They are relatively easy to start from seed indoors, starting in late February for May blooms. Hundreds of colors and combinations thereof, along with great disease and insect resistance, make them very popular to provide a splash of color for even the most inexperienced gardener. However, experienced gardeners know that they do best when they are carefully deadheaded at least once a week. My wife is the deadheader. Poppies come as annuals, biennials, and perennials. We always enjoy the annual ones, which sow themselves, volunteering to make a happy spot of color for a few weeks in late June or early July, only to die back all too soon, to be followed by firm, upright seed heads, which can be cut when they are mature to be used in dried flower arrangements. This particular annual poppy is the one grown for opium production in places like Afghanistan. The Flanders field poppy, immortalized in the Remembrance Day poem by John McCrae, grows as a medium-sized annual, which grows as somewhat of a weed in European fields, and that's why it was found in the fields of Flanders, and that's why John McCrae wrote about it in his poem. It is known as a Shirley or corn poppy. Double Shirleys in red, pink, or white are quite impressive. Salvias are very reliable plants for containers or borders. The most common colors are red and blue. The blue comes as the spikes of Victoria blue bed are shown here, whereas the spikes of lighthouse red are great in a bed of other medium to tall flowers. This is lighthouse red. And if they're dead-headed a bit, they will give a bright splash of color right until a hard freeze in October. We regard this one, Lighthouse Red, as one of our best annuals because it has shown no disease or insect problems over the past 6 summers that we've grown it. And even though Japanese beetles love to go for anything red or pink, it seems that this salvia is not on their menu. Most sunflowers are annuals. Some folks are really impressed by sunflowers, as this garden shed for a well-kept, tidy community garden reflects the pride that the gardeners took in their plots. Some sunflowers come in the regular, big-headed, tall varieties like these, and they are often grown in large fields here in southwestern Ontario, but also all across the west from Manitoba to Saskatchewan to Alberta. The seeds are crushed for edible oils, and the seeds are sold for the sales of wild bird seed. However, there are also smaller sunflowers grown for decorative fresh bouquets with varied colors, bicolors, and shapes. The William Dam catalog lists 2 pages, 25 varieties of sunflowers with names like ice cream, earthwalker, and teddy bear. Since the seed is quite large and germinates easily, sown directly outdoors, it is no wonder that both kids and adults love sunflowers. Snapdragons have always been a must-have in annual flower gardens for several reasons. One is that it is enchanting to show children why they are called snapdragons. Just squeeze the sides of the petals and they open up like a little dragon's jaw. Another thing to enjoy is watching big fat bumblebees forcing the lips of those petals apart to go in after the pollen and nectar found deep within the corolla. Snapdragons are best started indoors in February because the seed is small and very slow in its growth rate, until it's well established. Once well established, some of the open-faced varieties, or once well established, snapdragons may last right up until November because they can take quite a bit of frost once they are well established. Some of the open-faced varieties, such as these are open-faced varieties, they do not germinate as easily, nor are they as tough as the regular varieties. Sweet peas cannot be beaten for their wonderful fragrance. Over the years, we have noticed that growing sweet peas seems to be a simple matter in places west of southern Ontario, starting in Thunder Bay and going west from there. Our daughter in Dryden and the one who used to live in Fort McMurray had no trouble growing fine clusters of sweet peas, while here in southwestern Ontario we kept experimenting with some limited success. They are really a challenge, but one keeps working at it for the sake of the sweet perfume that they bring to our sense of smell and even to our sense of sight. There, those were growing in Dryden, Ontario, by our daughter who lives there. No problem at all. Well, does anybody know what this one's called? It's called scaviola, or fanflower. It's an excellent annual that you may not be familiar with. I certainly wasn't until about 2 years ago, when we saw how wonderfully well they did in a large patio plot potted by our daughter in Fort McMurray. Scaviola is not listed in the seed catalogs that I received from William Dam or from T&T Seeds in Winnipeg. And when I went online to sources, I found that there were a few American companies with a very limited selection. Yet, our daughter found her nursery-grown seedlings at a superstore or a Walmart in Fort McMurray. The point is that fanflower, or scaviola, is a desirable annual to be on the lookout for if you can find it, because it trails nicely over the edge of a container. It doesn't need constant deadheading, and it isn't bothered by insects and disease. Why it's not more common is a mystery. And finally, we come to Z for zinnias. They come in an amazing mix of single colors and combinations thereof. Size varies too, from about 6 inches to 2 feet. Zinnias bloom reliably all summer and are great for repeated cuttings. Their main drawback is that they are susceptible to powdery mildew and to insect damage. Shown in my slides here are some short and mid-sized varieties which are not so ideal for cutting, but do well in a bed because they're not prone to get blown over every time you have a big rainstorm. The gladiolus is an annual grown from a round tuber called a corm. The corms are best stored in dry peat moss in a cool place over the winter. In spring, they should be planted about 4 to 5 inches deep so they don't blow over when their tall flower spikes appear. Glads are a very regal flower and are great in large bouquets and arrangements. They come in a wide range of colors from white to purple and also lovely bicolors. A flower worth the effort if you have the room. Well, this stuff hanging down here is called sweet potato vine. It's used extensively in the containers found about Ingersoll, they are usually started from cuttings or from their tuberous roots. However, they can be started indoors from seed purchased online. The plant's lime green or dark purple leaves contrast nicely with other spillers hanging over the edge of a pot. Sweet potato vine is rather susceptible to diseases and insects who love it as their lunchtime salad. However, those planted by the town of Ingersoll did very well the past few summers. Perhaps our parks people tapped into the wealth of information to be found on Google about growing sweet potato vine. Fortunately, most vegetables and herbs are annuals. You can grow many of them in large pots or up trellises and up strategically placed garden netting. The following are some examples grown in pots. Dill here, basil, and parsley. Sweet corn usually takes up more room than most of us have available. However, this quad formation seemed to be quite productive in the Saskatoon community garden plots. Spaghetti squashes that were very successful in our small garden patch 2 summers ago. When allowed to ripen to a rich yellow-orangish color like this, they store well in a cool root cellar right until April or May. Our Dryden daughter grew some really big ones up an old barnyard gate. Cabbages can easily be started from seed indoors. A small variety like this one named Tierra can be planted close together and produce a tasty lettuce-like head by mid-June. Swiss chard is an easy-to-grow leafy vegetable that we harvest over and over again from June to October. It is a healthy spinach-like green when cooked. Tastes a lot like spinach. Unfortunately, it is very susceptible to leaf miner, which is a nasty little green worm that hatches from an egg laid by a tiny fly. This little worm tunnels between and eats the layers of the leaf, and that shows up as a white blotch filled with what the little caterpillar leaves behind, and that makes the leaf quite inedible. We have found that covering the leaves with tulle, purchased inexpensively at Len's Mill Store, keeps that pernicious little fly out and allows the plants to get the necessary sun and rain to flourish. The tulle is easily lifted up for harvesting the leaves because it's fastened to a few wire hoops by clothespins. The only drawback to this is that the netting does prevent you from seeing the lovely white, orange, and red stalks of the bright lights variety of chard. Many varieties of peppers are listed in gardening catalogs. Most are quite easy to grow in normal garden soil, enriched with compost or a little fertilizer. We find that sweet banana peppers, shown here, do really well for us. A few rows of yellow and green beans, as well as a Frenching slicing variety grown up netting on our back fence, produces enough beans for fresh summertime meals and lots of packages to freeze for the rest of the year. Seed catalogs may list as many as 60 varieties of tomato seeds. We've experienced good success, as Janice told you, with the orange cherry-sized sun sugar and with the blight-resistant and very productive varieties called Mountain Merit and Plum Regal. The latter, Plum Regal, is a Roma type which bears abundantly, and when it's picked green just before October's killing frost, it will ripen slowly indoors and last right up until Christmas. Midnight Snacks and Nightshade are two black varieties that an adventurous person may wish to try. This one, loaded with fruit, was found in the Saskatoon community plots. Perhaps the improved taste and sweetness that the William Dam catalog mentioned was not evident in this plant. Otherwise, how do you explain that so much of that nice-looking fruit had gone unpicked? This bushy annual is called Mexican marigold. It produces a few insignificant little white flowers, but we have grown it for its tight, bushy appearance and the licorice fragrance released when it's touched. Really, it's just a novelty plant grown as a conversation starter. Even carrots can be conversation starters. It just depends on where you want that talk to go. The tall flowers at the back of this bed were real conversation starters too. Need to bring it down a little bit. There, you can see how tall they are. They are called polygonum firetails, but more commonly they're called kiss me over the garden gate, Kate. You will not find this plant listed in any seed catalogs, probably because any seed collected is notorious for not germinating indoors as one would expect. However, if you have not weeded too vigorously, you'll likely find a few seedlings coming up in late May or early June near where you had the plant last year. These can usually be dug up quite easily and moved to where you'd like it kissing over the gate or fence this year. If you don't keep an eye out for it, you may lose your kissing Kate altogether. I think I lost it for a few years, but had it back last year, so I hope Kate will show up again sometime in late May or June. Without your Kate, one is bound to feel bereft, no matter how lovely is the evening or the autumn. Even winter's frosty loveliness will leave you cold without your Kate. But when a green archway beckons once again, you may find yourself in a garden teeming with amazing annuals, such as those that I've failed to capture in my photographs. Bells of Ireland ringing, angels' trumpets resounding, gomphrenas bawling, heliotropes vanillaing the air, larkspurs spurring nigellas loving in the mist, sappy-glosses glossing over lowly portulacas, and the status of helichrysum's straw flowers.
Whoa.
The end.
Are you all right with a few questions?
Yes, and I would like to talk for a few minutes about how you start annuals indoors.
How about you do your thing then, and then we'll do
Okay.
questions.
Just let me turn this off a minute. Starting seeds indoors. For that, it's handy to have some special seed trays of this type. And there are not too many places that sell them. I got these at William Dam Seeds. William Dam Seeds is found in Ancaster, just up the hill from Dundas on Highway 8. And They're a local company and they've been in business for a long time. And I like their seed packages, because the seed packages give you very, very careful instructions as to how to go about starting the seeds. Like tells you how many days, germinates in 10 to 20 days, optimum soil temperature 24 to 27 degrees, seeding depth 1/4 inch, and then so on. All the information you need to get started. And then if you get some good sterile mix, you put it in these trays like this, and then you take a little ruler like this and make a little line, 1/4 inch deep in this case. And then you get just a plain folded index card there, and you pour your seeds into there, and you take a sharp pointy thing like this letter opener, and you go along your little line and punch them out one at a time and space them accordingly. And then you nicely just tap this down with your fingers so that the hole is closed up. And you mist it, you water it, make sure it's good and damp. And then you cover it with a piece of plastic like this. And you put it in a place where the bottom is warm. I used to do this by putting on top of a hot water tank or on top of a fridge that was quite warm. Now I have a special tray downstairs in my basement that has a heating cable running through it. So, because I start a lot of different things. And as you can see, these are Nicotianas. And I mark on the side of this tray, once I've sown this stuff, what it is I've sown, and how high it's likely to get when it's full grown, and what date I sowed it, and how many days I should give it to come up, and how many seeds I put in here. I put in 80 seeds, and it looks like I have 80 seeds that came up. And so then, when they're about the size of the biggest ones here, we poke them out with a bread and butter knife, and we put them into cell packs like this. This happens to be parsley. And then you grow those on under lights. Like we have a bank of about 10 lights, grow lights going from middle of February till now, till the middle of May. And we have them on a timer so that they have their daylight during the night. It's cheaper that way. Okay, and that's about it. So, any questions?
Go ahead, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. Well, that's what he's here for, I'm not.
I just have one comment. The one flower you had up, I think you called it
Caviola.
The little hot fans.
Yeah.
I think they sell the plants at Van Dyke's in Woodstock.
Oh, they probably do.
I've seen them there, and they also include them in some of their hanging baskets as well. But I've
Yeah.
seen them.
They're at Heman's as well.
Oh yeah, well, Hemans has just about everything. Yeah, but they're a good thing to grow because they make a nice filler, and like I said, they don't have to be dead-headed all the time, and they don't seem to have insect and disease trouble.
Off the top of your head, what's the date of our plant sale?
Our plant sale is
Long weekend.
the long weekend, I think it's the 15th and 16th this year, three
Long
early.
weekend, long
Yeah,
weekend is early.
Yeah,
Friday.
And that's at the CAW Hall on Ingersoll Road. And a lot of the members contribute, so there's a lot of plants there.
yeah, it's on Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. And last year we sold out of tomatoes in no time flat. So we seem to have established a little reputation.
I think you have, yes, and my neighbors are waiting for this summer. And what about, I forgot when the garden show is, that you're hoping to have several gardens.
Garden tour. Well, I have some of our little, what we call bookmarks, and it tells you all these things. May the 15th and 16th, plant and bake sale at Unifor Hall. And June and July, Parade of Gardens, it's the
Don't know yet.
second Sunday in July, whatever Sunday that is, doesn't give the date here. And it gives the date of our presentations. We're having an additional presentation in May because our speaker for January had to cancel because of the weather, and she was going to talk about what's bugging you. So she's coming, I think the 26th or 28th, somewhere last Tuesday in May.
Fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday in May. So.
And we're now meeting at the senior center. We outgrew our homes, so we're, it's Tuesdays, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, it's
Fourth
not,
Tuesday.
it's not that we outgrew the home, Janice. It's that
Okay. Yeah.
the Masons just wanted a little more money than we were, as a poor little horticultural society, wanted to pay.
I wasn't gonna say that. Thank you, Richard. Any other questions for him?
Richard, are you using anything special as a soil mix there for your starting your plants?
Oh, yes, yes.
That does make a difference.
It makes a big difference.
To start it, so
William Dam carries a bag of starting soil. They list it in the back of their catalog here, you know, where all these things like, you know, sprays and all that kind of stuff is listed. And it's called WD something,
it's a start.
which stands for William Dam, starting soil. And it is sterilized. So, I had a bag of that left from last year, and I ran out before I was finished with all my seeding this spring. And so I just bought a little bag of starting soil that they were selling at Giant Tiger and Canadian Tire and everybody else. And you know what? All of the stuff that I started in those little bags of starting soil, no sooner had the things come up than they started to keel over from a fungus disease called damping off, which is well known to gardeners who start their own plants. And so my wife and I said, oh man, that's quite a drive to Ancaster, but we've got to get some more of that good starting soil because it's sterile, and when the stuff comes up, it doesn't keel over. So we made a special little trip on a nice sunny winter, or
Just a while ago.
late winter day,
Just 2-3 weeks ago.
yeah, and bought 2 bags of it, so I'll have enough for the rest of this year and also most of next year. The trouble is, with storing some of that stuff, you can end up growing mold in it for no good reason whatsoever. And then one year I had mold growing in it, and that caused quite a lot of havoc with the little seeds coming up. So, yeah, if you buy it fresh, that's the best way to go. But I'm gonna try and hold some over a year, so I don't run into the same problem again. So it's good stuff, but once you put stuff, once you've got the stuff growing quite well in here, you can put it in,
Just in a potting soil.
just in a potting soil that they sell everywhere, and you don't have to have a sterile soil for that. So, but yeah, that was a good question.
What is your take on tomatoes? What's your favorite tomato or best one to grow?
Well,
I'm regal.
our best one is Plum Regal.
It's aroma.
It's a Roma tomato, and when you buy tomatoes in the store during the winter time, most of them are that shape, sort of egg-shaped tomatoes, because they last well. You can buy them and leave them on your kitchen counter for 2 weeks and they still look good. And we found that when we pick them green, when we know it's finally gonna freeze in late October, they'll stay good and ripen up slowly till Christmas. So that works for us. But we also like its companion plant, which is a more regular round type of tomato, and it's called
Mountain Merit.
Mountain Merit, and it produces well too. And both of them,
It's a round one, but not as big as a beefsteak.
both of them are blight resistant, which is very, very important. Some years more so than others, but
The little cherry tomatoes too, they were really good that
Some
you grow.
sugars, the orange ones.
Yes, really good, and so
Nice and
prolific.
sweet.
oh, very prolific.
My neighbors keep saying, no more, no more, no more.
So,
Yeah.
but last year, the cost of the Plum Regal and the Mountain Merit tomato seeds had gone up quite a bit. And if you're buying 100 seeds, a package with 100 seeds in it,
Each kind.
and the price is $28, you say, oh my, maybe they've got a cheaper variety. And so William Dam last year carried a variety, 2 varieties, that seemed almost identical. And we said, let's try those. The seed is $10 cheaper for the same amount of seed. So we tried those, and that was a total disaster. And we don't know whether it was our cheapness in the soil that we used to plant them in the second stage, because they came up fine, that was no problem. In these little trays, they came up fine. And then we planted them in two quart containers. And we used some soil that we got at the Pemberton Yards, because we were at the Pemberton Yards, and here were some big balls of, this special soil with the vermiculite in it and all that kind of stuff. And we said, wow. So we took those balls of soil home, and we used it for planting our tomatoes. And the tomatoes
Didn't do
were
as
a
well.
disaster. They produced hardly anything. And we think the reason those balls of soil were there in the Pemberton Yard dump, because somebody must have sprayed it with Roundup or something like that. Yeah, there was a poison in there. And so we didn't blame the tomatoes, because we went to William Dam's in September to look at their trial gardens, and their tomatoes of the varieties that we had bought cheaply were just fine. So we figured, okay, it must have been the soil. So you live and you learn, no cheap soil.
So I've had snapdragon, because you called the snapdragon an annual, but I've had snapdragons come back year to year.
Yes.
Is that just because they've dropped their seeds and it's happened to last over the winter or?
It can be that, it can be that, some plants come back because they've dropped their seeds. But snapdragons are almost hardy. So if you have a lot of snow cover, like we did this year, they probably survive underneath the snow. And yeah, you'll have early snapdragons.
So that really, because I have snapdragons that grew quite tall last year.
yeah.
And now cleaning out the garden, I got this green, really tall, scraggly piece in the garden. I believe it's the snapdragon.
Yeah, leave it, just cut it,
Can I cut it down?
yeah, cut the stem down just the main leaves and
See what happens.
yeah, see what happens. It's worth a try. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Gardening is fun because you're always experimenting.
But mine, the problem is you need to come and tell me when these things come up in the spring, which ones are weeds and which ones are flowers that I wanna leave in there.
Well, supposedly master gardeners are for that. And if you know a master gardeners group somewhere, call them up and ask them to tell you.
Come and look at my garden. Fortunately, I think they're mostly weeds.
It's okay, I've hoed things out that I shouldn't have, but I think are weeds,
So,
especially when they're small.
yeah.
And I brought in a few books at the back, and the museum set up a couple of artifacts there that we have in our permanent collection here, and you're welcome to do that. And after we disperse here, you always know we have a great lunch, and there's a thank you jar there for thank you great lunch as well. So feel free to hover and socialize. Teresa?
Oh, thank you very much for this talk.
My pleasure.
Well, all learned a little bit
Thank you very much.
about. We all enjoy being in the garden.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to be outside and, you know, short sleeves again without a coat, right?
Right?
Not wait to get going yet.
I know. I got itchy fingers.
Get your fingers dirty.
Thank you very much.